The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
And good morning here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher. We begin this morning with an update on a story we first brought you yesterday here on Sunrise. Law enforcement confirms the man wanted in connection to a murder in Tulare County is the same man at the center of a 2019 Bakersfield immigration controversy. Sheriff's officials in Tulare say Josar Omar Bello Reyes is one of three men involved in the shooting death of a man whose body was found at a Tarabella orchard. You may remember the 24-year-old was arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement in 2019, 36 hours after he read a poem critical of ICE before the Kern County Board of Supervisors. Bello Reyes' case gained national attention because of the timing of his arrest, but ICE maintained that Bello Reyes was arrested because of a month-old DUI. We attempted to reach Bello Reyes, but he remains at large. We also reached out to his former lawyers, including the American Civil Liberties Union, but no one's gotten back to us. Meantime, two other men have been arrested in connection to the murder.
A sheriff's deputy who shot and killed a man last month is back on the job this morning after officials say the shooting was justified. We first brought you this story when KCSO released body cam footage of the incident, and we want to warn you, some might find this video disturbing. "55-year-old Fidel Badeo was shot and killed October 6 on Texas Street near Tyree Tolliver Street. Video of the shooting showed him getting out of the car and pointing a gun at deputies. Deputies had been pursuing Bedoya after receiving a report of an assault on Knott Street in East Bakersfield, eventually tracking him to Texas Street, where the shooting happened. Officials say the gun Bedoya was carrying was stolen. A sergeant and 5 deputies were placed on administrative leave pending the review board's ruling.
And we now know the name of a man found dead off a road south of McFarland. Deputies say 28-year-old Jerry Hernandez Gonzalez was found off South Garzoli Avenue and Whistler Road Saturday evening with a gunshot wound to the chest. By our count, there have been 118 homicides in Kern County so far this year. This morning, the COVID-19 vaccine for children is on its way to doctors' offices around the country. The Food and Drug Administration has authorized Pfizer's COVID vaccine for emergency use in kids ages 5 to 11. But before shots can start going into arms, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention must officially vote on the matter and then sign off. If that happens, kids could start rolling up their sleeves as early as tomorrow.
Meantime, the virus is finding new life in our area as it reemerges to infect more people. We're still in our third wave, and although the spread was worse in early September, cases are once again back on the rise. Yesterday, we learned another 969 people have been infected with COVID-19. Now, keep in mind that includes data from Saturday and Sunday. We also learned of another 4 people who lost their lives. 226 people are in the hospital with more severe symptoms of the virus. 56 more are in the ICU.
One, two, three.
A special honor last night for the first woman to serve as the Kern County Superintendent of Schools. The building at the corner of 17th Street and Chester Avenue in downtown Bakersfield has been renamed the Christine Lizardi Frazier Student Services Center. Dr. Frazier served as Kern County Superintendent of Schools from 2009 to 2017. She was the first woman and Latina to fill the position.
This center houses the staff that serve our most vulnerable population in Kern County, whether it be early child care, special education, or students who are in court and community school. The people in this building make sure that all children can succeed, and that's Dr. Frazier's legacy.
The new building dedicated to Dr. Frazier was formerly known as the Chase Building. All right, thanks, Kev. Recapping our top stories on this Tuesday. Law enforcement confirms the man wanted in connection to a murder in Tulare County is the same man at the center of a 2019 Bakersfield immigration controversy. Sheriff's officials say Jose Omar Bello Reyes is one of 3 men involved in a shooting death out of Tarabella. Bello Reyes was arrested by ICE in 2019, 36 hours after he read a poem critical of the agency. A sheriff's office review board has ruled an officer-involved shooting that occurred last month was justified. 55-year-old Fidel Bedoya was shot and killed October 6th on Texas Street near Tyree Tulliver Street. Deputies had been pursuing Bedoya after receiving a report of an assault.
17 News is your local election headquarters, and people living in Taft will decide today whether to adopt a 1-cent sales tax increase. That proposal is on the ballot in this special election. 17's
Chris Burton spoke to potential voters yesterday, and he joins us live from City Hall in Taft with the latest on this vote. Chris?
Well, Alex, Maddie, public awareness for this election seems to be pretty low, but I'll get to that in a minute. This measure, Measure A, was adopted by the Taft City Council on August 3rd and requires a simple majority to pass this morning. The council citing the rising cost of first responders and the economic downturn caused by COVID among the factors behind the proposal. According to the measure, the tax would generate an estimated $1.6 million for the city. Now, Kern County Clerk Mary Bedard confirmed ballots have been sent to every eligible voter in Taft, but 17 News spoke to a handful of Taft residents, and not one of them was aware of the election.
I don't know about it, usually I haven't seen it on TV, and if my dad hasn't told me about it, because he watches C-SPAN constantly, you know what I mean? Then if I'm not knowing there's an election, I'm like, wait, what?
Taft City Clerk Yvette Mayfield said in a statement, quote, "The city has set up many avenues to educate our citizens on the measure and inform voters of the local election." She mentioned social media outreach, presentations to local organizations, and public service announcements. Now, voters can submit their ballots vote by mail today, or they can go to the West Side Recreation and Park District at 500 Cascade Place here in Taft. Polls open at 7 a.m. today and close at 8 p.m. Live in Taft, Chris Burton, 17 News.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. Our time now is 5:34, and as a UN climate change summit wraps up in Scotland later today, President Biden is upping the nation's commitment to fighting the global threat. And while back at home, a key Democrat still threatens to derail his agenda. NBC's Chris Pallone is in Washington with more.
Alex, good morning. President Biden returns home to Washington tonight after making a major pledge to help fight climate change. The president returns to find Democrats still locked in an ongoing battle over his agenda, which is still stalled. At the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, President Biden is announcing some of the nation's strongest regulations ever to reduce methane emissions from oil and gas drilling. The proposed EPA rules aim to curb a significant source of pollution contributing to climate change.
My fellow leaders,
It comes a day after the president apologized to other world leaders for climate change initiative rollbacks during the Trump administration.
I guess I shouldn't apologize, but I do apologize for the fact the United States the last administration pulled out of the Paris Accords and put us sort of behind the eight ball.
The president had hoped to show world leaders climate progress here at home with a finished social program and climate change spending bill. That didn't happen before he left for Europe, and now a key Democratic holdout says he's still not on board.
This is a recipe for economic crisis.
The House's top progressives still confident that a bipartisan infrastructure bill and that bigger spending bill will both pass this week.
The president said right after the senator spoke that he is confident he can deliver 51 votes for this plan. I am going to trust the president.
Meanwhile, Democrats wondering about their prospects in next year's midterm elections might get a preview today as Virginians elect a new governor.
Are you ready to win?
With President Biden's poll numbers dropping, the Democratic candidate for governor is locked in a close race in a state Biden won by double digits just last year. Senior administration officials say 80 nations will join the U.S. and European Union in pledging to cut methane emissions by 30% by the end of this decade. In Washington, Chris Pallone, 17 News.
Former President Donald Trump is rejoicing this week after Representative Adam Kinzinger announced he will not seek re-election in 2022, the second House Republican to announce retirement plans since voting to impeach Trump following the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The former president released a statement through his leadership PAC, Save America, which simply reads, 2 down, 8 to go, apparently referencing the total of 10 Republicans who voted to impeach him. One of those House Republicans is current Representative David Valadao. In September, CNN reported that fellow Kern Congressman Kevin McCarthy and his allies reached out to Trump to urge that he not get involved in the 2022 midterm primary election, in which Valadao will defend his seat. 17 News spoke with McCarthy about where he stands on Valadao in the wake of that vote.
I strongly support David Valadao. David Valadao sits in a district that's a very Democratic district. David Valadao sits on the Appropriations Committee. He works hard for the water to bring down into Kern County. He is a strong voice for Kern County. You might not agree with somebody 100% of the time, but David Valadao agrees with his district, at least close to that, where he works so hard for them. But the one thing I will...
Democratic candidate Rudy Salas plans to face off against Valadao in next year's election. Valadao narrowly won his seat last election, beating former Representative TJ Cox by less than 1 percentage point.
Turning now to your 17 Court Watch, and a woman charged with causing a crash that killed a local teen is scheduled to appear in court later today. Prosecutors say Cristina Moreno-Gonzalez was driving the SUV that ran into a motorcycle carrying 13-year-old Nicholas Peterson. It happened in the intersection of Coffee and Hageman back on January 10th. Peterson's stepfather, John Deal, was also on the motorcycle and seriously hurt. Prosecutors charged Moreno-Gonzalez with vehicular manslaughter and gross negligence back in July. Records show she posted bond and has since been released from jail.
A group of riders made a stop in Bakersfield yesterday on their journey to honor more than a dozen fallen service members. The group Tribute to Fallen Soldiers Northwest began their 11-day journey from Eugene, Oregon to San Diego 6 days ago. They made a stop at the Bakersfield Elks Lodge yesterday, where they were treated to a spaghetti dinner and a place to stay for the night. Before the group left Oregon, they lit a flame in memory of the servicemen and women who lost their lives in Afghanistan in August.
And when the suicide bombing attack happened on August 26th, when those 13 service members lost their lives, we came together as a group and decided that we had to do something. So we created this 11-day ride through Oregon, through Central and Southern California.
The ride ends this upcoming Sunday when the group will extinguish the flame in San Diego.
Bakersfield National Cemetery, meantime, is once again teaming up with Wreaths Across America to honor our local fallen service members. The cemetery will join the more than 2,700 locations across the nation for Wreaths Across America Day. It is on December 18th. It is a day to ensure that those who serve to protect the freedoms of our country never be forgotten and to bring the community together. If you'd like to volunteer for the event or sponsor a wreath, go to WAABakersfield.org.
It's such a beautiful event every year.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.